Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast. So you've got me rambling on about, stuff that happened in the last week. Games, movies, TV. Probably more games, maybe. Yeah. If you're one of our lovely YouTube subscribers, virtual high five to you, because you rock. If you want to subscribe on the audio devices, so you've got SoundCloud and iTunes, you can subscribe there too. And it'd be hugely cool if you did. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline podcast. Got the old man noise in there. Straight off the bat. Let's get it out of the way. Other things to get out of the way. I am not drinking beer right now. And by beer I of course mean the very strong, very alcoholic, non-alcoholic beer. I'm a little out of breath, as you may be picking up on, because honestly, I probably started this a little too soon. I should have taken a moment. 1 second. Not the virus. Gonna warn you. Whereas every week I'm like, oh, this week I've got nothing to talk about. And then it ends up being like an hour and 10-minute podcast. 1 second, I'm going to have to move this. The worst thing ever. I don't know what that sounds like. It looks awful on the squiggly blue line. What was I saying? Did I say what time it was? It was 9:45. Time of recording, 9:45, and every week I'm like, oh no, I'm saying about how it's a busy one. I've just got a lot of stuff on the list this week. I also have a banging headache, which is a stress headache. The reason it's 9:45 is I've just spent, what will it be, like 2 hours? It could be more than that. No, wait. Let's call it 2 hours so that we don't have to keep dwelling on it. I've spent the last 2 hours making my middle daughter a birthday cake. One of those things, I think there'd been like this thing like setting out into 2021. The idea was to get better at making cakes, and not even making cakes, presentation. But as with almost anything in life, know your audience. So if I'm making a cake for, I'm going to say conservatively 2 out of my 3 children, there are certain stipulations. There's certain things you can't use, certain things you can use. And when it comes down to presentation, that is made very difficult because it has to fit into a certain guideline. Short version is, not a lot you can do about presentation. But yeah, I've just spent the last 2 hours shouting, swearing, throwing things, while simultaneously keeping incredibly calm. Today has been the weirdest day. I feel like I've been in some kind of weird time vortex today. Every time I looked at the clock, Today was a working day. This is what makes it even weirder. Every time I looked at the clock, it was... There was a point where it was 2 hours later than I thought it was. I had to triple check the time on multiple clocks. There was a point where I was like, oh, I've got like 10 minutes to do something. And the next thing I was like, where did that 10 minutes go? I've now overshot. It's like 12 minutes later or whatever. This headache is not helping things. I need to take the time to calm it down, but I don't have the time for that. So we've covered the birthday cake. At time of recording, I don't want to date this, but I mean, it's one of those. I imagine what's going to release tomorrow is like the Christmas episode of the podcast 3 weeks into January, which is something that I really want to address, but also don't feel able to. So today is Monday. It was 9:45. It's not 9:45 anymore. Today is Blue Monday. As I say, I don't want to date this, but the date today is the 18th of January, Blue Monday. So we'll come back to that. But yeah, that will become significant further down the line, because the list got so big. And you know, the reason that it's so big is because it's just got like some bits from the week, but then I've got like a long list of films that I hadn't seen, so obviously I want to talk about them. I've got a couple of games to talk about, but the problem being is that the films, it's not somewhere that I'm like, oh, well, this film was good. Turns out that's what's going to happen. But I looked at areas where I could trim the fat, and ultimately, I think where I can trim the fat is from the stuff from the week, but we'll see. I feel a bit. I'm super stressed. And I've probably eaten a little bit too much cake. So I imagine that combination is not amazing. But anyway, let's look at the list and get a little bit of focus. I apologise. Yeah, I feel against the clock, even though the clock has technically stopped because the cake is now in the fridge. So maybe it'll die down. I think I might have just wiped some form of chocolate on my face. Interesting. So here's something about podcasting and the way I podcast. I write a list. This will be a surprise to absolutely everybody. That's a joke. I write a list, and it usually starts a couple of days after I've done a podcast, depending. Sometimes I get to the day of the podcast and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing to talk about. And then 2 hours later I'm like, it's going to be a long one today. And that's just kind of the way it goes. It's a system that I use. I imagine there's probably a fair amount of podcasters that use a list system. The thing about using a list is you write a list. Let's say I start a list on Tuesday, for the benefit of the doubt, and then 6 days later, I do a podcast. If I put something on the list on Tuesday, by the following Monday, that list might change. That list might have added different things, and something later in the list might contradict something earlier in the list. And this is the case today. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to talk about the worst run. So this is a subject that I've raised recently. I hope, weirdly, I hope it wasn't last week, because then I'm just going to be banging it. In fact, I can find out, but I won't. I'm kind of hoping it was like maybe a couple of weeks ago. Still fresh, but I'm not, I don't want you listening to this being like, is this the same podcast? So, January, as previously mentioned, and we've had various bits of snow. There was points in time, like, it's going to snow for days, and then, it rained. There's going to be really heavy snow, and it snowed heavily for like an hour, and then it rained. That's... Generally, I find that to be the weather. If they predict snow, then, it's probably not going to snow. I think I've been right more than the Met or BBC. So, just saying. So, there was a day where it had snowed. Snowed a lot, but I'm a rain or shine kind of guy. Went out for my run, and it was very much like the last one, the one I talked about. It was I don't know. Well, no, that's not true. I can work it out. So snow hits your forehead, turns to water, runs down, collects sweat, which is ultimately salt, and runs into your eyes. I was going to say, I don't know why, in those conditions, are my eyes stinging, but there we go. A mystery solved live on the podcast. The thing that was the biggest issue was every step on multiple sections of this run. You know that thing where I can't quite explain it. You step your foot down. Let's say you put your foot in a puddle, and then you step your next foot down in the same puddle, and that splashes water like a mini tidal wave into your shoe. So you've got that, and then obviously the next step you take, you splash water into your other shoe. And if the puddle's like 20 foot, I think we all know what's going to happen. So I went out, and this run was just the worst run. I think we can safely say it trumps the previous worst run. This one's top of the pops. It was pretty awful. It was pretty bad, not gonna lie. So I got out there anyway. It was the worst run. But I've been dealing with this thing recently. And I wrote it on the list because I just got to the point where I was like, it's a thing. It's grown into a thing. So I've been really struggling for motivation. What I've written down here is lack of motivation for working harder. So in lockdown 1.0, as it's now known, and is a phrase I hate, just like this is lockdown 3.0, and I hate that as well. They closed the gyms. Now, I was going to the gym 5 times a week. I was running on the treadmill. I was working out. It's chest and back, arms and arms, don't think I was doing any legs at that point. I always have an issue with working legs. I was hitting the treadmill, I was hitting the weights, I was well and truly into that situation. And there's something I talked about at the time about how I felt like I was losing a little bit of my identity. However, thanks to Lan clearing space in the garage and getting the garage weight system back into action, I was able to carry on working out. And then X amount of time later, I went back to running, and that was that. The problem with it is that when I started in the garage, I was like, gyms will be back open soon, and I'll be going back to the gym. And between now and then, I realistically just have to maintain. So there was like a point in time where I increased the weight, and then there was another point in time I increased the weight. Since then, so that will have been, April, May, June, whatever, going on for 9 months plus, it's heading for a year, all of this sort of stuff. I am still in that maintenance phase. And I'll happily tell anybody who listen, you guys especially, I work out 5 times a week. For what purpose? I am starting to question. Because for somebody who, started working out in a gym at 15, I think, I know how it goes. You do so much and then you up the weight, you do so much and you up the weight, and that's how you get bigger and stronger and faster and so on. And knowing that I need to do that and getting to this point where I'm like, I really need to do that. Yeah, I'm like, I need to do it, but I just can't do it. I haven't got the motivation to do it. Same with the running. The running was, I'm going out and I'm running and I'm covering the distance. I'm going all the way to the place where I go, and I'm coming all the way back. And I'll tell anybody, running 5 times a week. But that realization of, you can't really call it running. You know that I will always say it's not running. And I'm pretty sure it's reached a point where it's now just shuffling is the word I would use. It's running with the minimal amount of effort. That's what I've realised. And I'm covering a distance, but I'm covering that distance using the least amount of energy possible, because in my head I've got to keep all that energy, but I've got to keep it back. And even on Saturday's my big run day because it's my cheat meal, so I want to pay for that cheat meal before, and I go out, I do a longer run, but I'm just shuffling my way there and shuffling my way back. Monday it's the quote unquote easier run. Tuesday it's the quote unquote harder run. That's doing the hills in reverse, so they're bigger, they're harder. Wednesday's a rest day. Thursday, quote unquote easy. Friday harder. Saturday long run. And that was that, and there was this part of me that was like, well, I went for a run, and going for a run's always going to be better than not, but it's not a run, and my body is so used to lifting the weight that it's been lifting for 9 months that it's bordering on pointless. And I just hit this realisation of, I need to do more. I need to put more effort into my running. I need to go further. I need to go faster. B, I need to lift heavier weights. I need to do other exercises. I need to be putting more time and more effort into it. And C, I can't be bothered to do any of that. But then there's a D. So what happens is, you've got A, you've got B, and you've got C. And eventually, A and B start to win over C. So I wrote a list, and I started it last Tuesday, and I was like, man, I had the worst run. I'm struggling for motivation. I'm struggling for, to increase stuff. Saturday comes round. So the third thing that I've written on my list is longer run, in brackets, felt okay. Saturday rolls round. I head out for the long run. There's a little part of me that's like, you're going to go further today. And there's this other part of me, this huge, 95% of me that's like, no, you're not. And I'm just like, you've got to do it, man. Because when are you going to? I was like, I don't have it in me today. This is internal stuff. I'm not running down the street having this conversation. Like, man, you got to do it. You got to get out there. You got to go further. It's Saturday. I go further anyway. Yeah, but you need to go. You need to do it. Today's the day. Let's get it done. So I went out on my Saturday run, and I did the long run, and I'm heading back. And the realization of, if you go home now and you haven't gone further, you are going to spend the rest of the day hating yourself. It's that simple. It just boils down to that. If you had the opportunity to do it and you didn't do it, you're gonna regret it for the rest of the day, Sunday, and so on and so forth. So I was like, looks like we're doing it then. So I think I ran an extra mile, which to some doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you've done it after running 2.5 miles, yeah, that's 5k, isn't it? Now I can't confirm 100%. I don't use any of the tracking, run tracking things, because when I used to use them, it was just press the button and away you go. Now they're like, we want to sell your data to absolutely everybody. So is that cool with you? I'm like, no. It's like, then you can't use our service. It's like, cool. But I know that the quote-unquote long run is in the region of 2.5 miles, and I know that what I added on was in the region of a mile. Smart, slap those puppies together. You've got nearly, let's go with nearly 3.5 miles, and the last time I checked, 3.5 miles was 5k. Now I'm doubting myself. Is it 5k? I think it's 5k. Might be like 3.6 or something. And the note that I've got written there was true. I got home, I was like, positive endorphins and all that. I felt good that I'd done it. I felt good that I'd gone that further distance. And all of that. But, and here's the but. Could have probably gone further. And this was the thing, back in my running days, when I used to do 5k every day. I used to do 10k's on a weekend sometimes. In my running days, that was always a thing. I'd go and I'd run 5k, I'd be dying. I'd get home, I'd walk through the door, I'd be like, could have gone further. I did I did 10 Ks. I got back, got to the door, went in, could have gone further. And already I'm now like, okay, could have gone further. So, you know, let's see what this Saturday brings. I'm just thinking now, I don't know how much time I'll have on this. See, straight away in with the excuses. So, this is something that's quite difficult for me to talk about, but I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna try something new, and we'll see how we get on. If I get so far and it's too much, I might have to bail, but we'll see. And it's one of my favourite things. I start out by sounding like a dick, so you know. So through all of this lockdown stuff, I see a lot of mostly on Twitter, and it's like people like, oh man, I'm really depressed. Oh man, I'm really down. I just feel like, does anybody else feel like they're really depressed? And this is me being honest right now. I read those posts and I read those things, and I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, get a grip. And there's a part of me that's like, are you just doing it for like? I always look to see how many likes that tweet has got, or how many comments. And there is a big part of me that's a bit like, pull yourself together. Not in a like a sort yourself out sort of sense. More of a, come on, I know it's bad, but we're all in it together, and we've all got to get out the other side. And maybe that's all it is. Maybe that's somebody saying, I'm really struggling and I need some help, in the hope that somebody comes back to them and is like, I know how you feel. Maybe I'm not being sympathetic to those needs. Doesn't sound like me. So, there's that part of me that's easily saying, and then there's the part of me that's like I say, once I have a word with myself, I'm like, maybe that person's struggling, maybe that person's having a really rough time. Maybe they're not just doing it for, I was going to say for sympathy, but that's not what I mean, for attention. That's the word. Probably just blew your ear rolls out. Maybe they're not doing it for attention. Maybe it is, a little bit of a cry for help in some degree. So this past weekend, and today, what I realised is that I've been suffering with a severe bout of depression. And I realised this at the point that yesterday I could not keep my eyes open. And Saturday night, stayed up a little bit later, because Saturday night, that old part of me that will probably never die, always, it's like, Saturday, got party hard, and as years have gone on, it's now like, Saturday night, it's movie night, cheap meal, that sort of stuff. So I stayed up a little bit later, and there's a possibility I got up a little earlier than I would have done. But all I wanted to do was sleep. That's all I wanted to do. Every time I sat down, just closed my eyes. Every time I stopped moving, I just wanted to close my eyes. And this was like, it was just a few days where I was really depressed. And it was really difficult. It was a really difficult time. I'm still at a point now where I'm not feeling amazing. I feel emotional because I'm incredibly stressed. I am. I think I can safely say I'm quite depressed. I did a thing today where I snapped at someone that, in hindsight, I really shouldn't have snapped at. Yeah, they seemed to completely ignore it, which was probably a good thing. But now I'm just like, man, all those people on Twitter that were like, oh, I'm just really depressed. And the irony being is that it's Blue Monday, but I feel that that's just a coincidence because, you know, I'm the guy that's like, I'm different. I was depressed on Saturday. I was depressed on Saturday and Sunday, but not Monday, but still Monday. Yeah. I think it's causing some kind of hysteria to some degree. Yeah. So what I felt like, this was a little bit of a shit sandwich. I'd been talking about stuff that didn't hugely matter, and then I was going to talk about being depressed, and then I was going to talk about something which I'm going to admit to this now so I don't get into any trouble. This is kind of stolen from somewhere. I was listening to a Bill Burr podcast, so, you know, all credit where credit's due. I was listening to a Bill Burr podcast a while ago, and he got talking about a recipe, and he got talking about, you know, oh, no, I had this recipe, oh, let me look it up, and then he just like totally flew off the handle about when you go onto the internet to find a recipe, and then you end up reading a page about, you know, the invention of whatever item it is that you're trying to make and all this and the other. And why the fuck can't they just give you the ingredients and tell you how to make it? And it's like, you know, 900 pages long, and ultimately you don't get the recipe and you don't get how to make it. And I was like, I was listening to this, I remember the point in time, I was listening to it in the garage whilst working out, shouting at my phone going, yeah, you're right. This evening, I attempted to find a recipe for pizza dough. Holy shit balls. There was a point where I was on a website and they were literally like, so pizza was invented in, and I'm like, how is this giving me what ingredients I need and then telling me how to make pizza dough? And do you know something? I went through that website top to bottom, or that web page should I say, top to bottom. Nowhere on that page was there a recipe or the method of making pizza dough. And do you know what search I used? The search was pizza dough recipe. I cannot stress The number of websites I've been through this evening to try and find a pizza dough recipe. And I know what you're thinking right now. Well, surely you will have found what you believe to be a decent pizza dough recipe. Have I balls? What? There was a point in time where you could go to the internet and you could find what you wanted. And this is the thing. So I found one. Firstly, you got to get through all the gumph. But then let's not forget you got to accept the cookies or not accept the cookies. And if you're like me, I'm like, fuck your cookies. So I have to go to the other page and tell them that I don't want them to collect all my data and use all my stuff and sell it to the highest bidder, knowing full well that whether I've said yes or no or not, they're still going to do it anyway. They're going to find some other way of doing it because they'll just capture the traffic. So there's that. Then I get on the page. Finally. Top to bottom. Right at the very bottom, after I've learned who invented pizza. Press here to go straight to the recipe. I mean, you could have put that at the top, surely. I go straight to the recipe. And straight away I'm like, fuck you. Because the recipe's in cups. Yeah, this is Britain, my dear, or sir or madam. We don't use cups, so you can. So come out of that, I go into another one. I found exactly what I was looking for, right up to the point where it told me I needed. Was it semolina? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Everything was perfect. Right up to the point that it needed semolina. And I'm like, what is this? It gave me some alternatives to semolina. And there was two alternatives. One of them I've never heard of before. And the other one I was like, well, I've got about as much chance as getting that. Came out of that one. At this point in time, I categorically do not have a pizza dough recipe. If anybody's got a decent pizza dough recipe, can you drop me an email with it on? So there will not be any homemade pizza in this house unless A, I can find a pizza dough recipe in the next 12 hours, and B, somehow get to the shops to get some freaking bread flour. Honestly. Right, there, I'm done. You are free to go. Only joke. Right, so some movies. Typically, after everything I said, I imagine this podcast is about an hour long already. So let's talk some movies, and I'll try and be quick. I have watched some great films in the last week. I have watched some fucking Netflix, man. Every single time. Anyway, let's get started. I watched Zodiac. Ages ago I saw a video about the rebirth of Robert Downey Jr. And it said that the thing that launched him back into the public eye, the film that brought him back after all of his troubles, was the film Zodiac. It's a film I've never seen, and I saw that it was available on Prime. So, add it to the watch list. I'll get to it, one day. that was that. As for the purposes of the podcast, I am trying to watch, for want of a better way of putting it, stuff that generates content, i.e. not films I've seen before, not films I've potentially reviewed for you guys before. But films that generate content. I've just realised that I never even made my point about working out, about the list. So the list was the whole thing about how I was struggling to motivate myself to do more, and the swinging the other way thing was that I did more working out and ran further. So I did more working out today, and I've got it in my head that I'm going to increase the weight. Sorry, a little all over the map today. Zodiac. Now here's the thing. I've not seen it, so I was like, right, that's a reason to watch it. Podcast. That's what I was saying. Didn't know a massive amount about it. I'd read the blurb. I have to find that the blurbs, especially on Amazon Prime, their blurbs are weird because you can't read it all. And I can't find a way to get in to read it all. It's just like 3 lines that just ends partway through one of the sentences. It's like, alright, cool, I don't need to know about this film then. Cool. So, turned out to have a really good cast. Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Anthony Edwards. Anthony, one of those. So, 3 Marvel alum, obviously before, and Goose. Something I will say is that and this always sounds bad, but it's not meant to be. I didn't realise how long it was when I put it on, and it felt like it took like an entire evening, like an entire point in time to watch. I don't know what was wrong, but it just felt like it took like a whole day to watch. Obviously it didn't, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I can't explain it. I think I went to get drinks about 8 times. Which obviously won't help everything, starting and stopping and all of that. But I never realised how long it was when I put it on. It was only at a point where I'd gone to get a drink, and I paused it and I was like, why is this film only like a third of the way through? I feel like I've been watching it a while. And then I looked, and it's 2 hours 40 minutes long. I was like, okay. It was good. I feel a bit like I don't want to ruin stuff by giving too much information. But then me just going, it was good, probably doesn't give enough information. It's about the Zodiac killer. And like the police get to a point where they can't carry on looking for this guy because it spanned years and years and years and years. And there was like these guys that just got obsessed. What I will say is, for a 2 hour 40 minute film, when I got to the end, I was a bit like, having not known anything about it, I got to the end and I was like, really? That's the end? I was disappointed. Not in the film. I was disappointed in the outcome. All the actors previously mentioned were all very good. They seem to sort of come and go a bit. 2 of the 4 actors I mentioned aren't in all of the film. Which is something that's often not necessarily the case. When you've got actors of a certain calibre. So, that's maybe why it was so noticeable. But it was very good, it was very enjoyable. There was a super creepy bit in it. One of those where you can feel your heart going just a little bit quicker. Very enjoyable movie. Keeping with Mark Ruffalo for a moment, I watched Dark Waters. Now, this is one of those things that I'd seen a trailer for this a while back, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. But I very much thought it was about... This is going to sound a bit dumb. I thought it was about dumping chemicals into water. And chemicals being like chemical waste. And that wasn't what it was about. But still kind of about that. It wasn't about dumping it into water, it was about dumping chemicals into landfills. But ultimately also into the air, and it was so much worse than I thought it was going to be. I'm trying to... I need to look up... Do you know something? I think it was yesterday, I actually considered doing all of the prep for the podcast just to see what difference it would make. Literally look up all of the actors for all of the movies, all of that sort of stuff. I actually considered doing it, and then I was a bit like, nah, it's more fun this way. There was one really standout thing about this film, and this is going to sound a bit weird in a way, but there was a really, really standout thing for me in this film. There was an example of bad casting. So they cast Anne Hathaway as Mark Ruffalo's character's wife. And from literally the first moment I saw her in that film playing the role she was playing, I was like, no, we've done this wrong. This is not correct. And through the entire film, my opinion never changed. If I took one thing away from that film, the one thing I would take away from that film would be that they badly cast her in that film. She shouldn't have been in that role. The other standout actors, Tim Robbins. I often feel that we don't see enough of Tim Robbins. I've always had quite a lot of time for him. Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman played a bit of a weird character. I think he was playing somebody that was older than he is. Yeah, it was a bit odd. Something that was nice right at the very end. It flashed back through the film to show all the real life people that were actually in the film, and the main guy, Robert Billett, and his wife Sarah Billett were actually in it, which I thought was cool. And then there was this kid that they'd mentioned who he was also in it, like the kid, the real life kid was in it. Very good film, absolutely terrifying when you find out what it's actually about. And by that I mean, how do I say this without spoiling it? Let's put it this way, I thought it was about dumping chemicals in my head it was a certain thing. In actual fact it was about dumping chemicals in a different way. And the chemical in question so made the whole thing so much worse. Because in my head, when you talk about dumping chemicals, it's like, a little lake in some backwater or something, and they're pouring barrels of sludge into the water, and then all the fish die. Or there's a factory and they've got a runoff where they dump all the chemical waste into it, and it runs out into a river, and the animals drink the water from the river and they die. It was so much worse than that. I remember something from a while ago. Yeah, I'll have to leave that thought there because it would give too much away if I continued pulling at that particular thread. Moving on. Unfortunately, moving on means I do have to look something up, but I know that it's already there because I looked up at the time. I looked this particular person up. I watched the film In Time. I thought on a recommendation that turned out to be not a recommendation, because when I said to the person, I watched a film that you recommended to me, they were like, I've never seen that film. Okay, that's cool. Anyhow, In Time. In Time does this thing. Right at the very start, it tells you the premise of the film. And literally, it goes, you either get on board now, or we're done here. And then you're like, okay, then I guess I'm on board. So that's that. You have to buy into something that gives absolutely no explanation. So once you've bought in, then you're fine. You're set for the rest of the movie. The movie goes on. And basically, you know what? I'll tell you what. I will read. Right, here we go. In a future where people stop aging at 25. But are engineered to live only one more year, having the means to buy your way out of the situation is a shot at immortal youth. Now, if you understand that, cool. You can watch this film. And that's the way the film works. If you understand what you're told at the very beginning, then you can watch the movie. If not, then you're probably better off turning it off then. Because there is a super sketchy plot hole later on. Now then, I looked her up at the time. I thought the woman in it was Emma Stone. And as the film went on for quite a while, I was like, do you know something? I don't think that's Emma Stone. But I'm sure it is. So I looked her up. Not Emma Stone at all. Is that who it is? Maybe she's the main person from Mamma Mia, which I have never seen. I've totally seen that film. Anyway, Justin Timberlake. Amanda Seyfried, Cillian Murphy, Olivia Wilde. Those. Johnny Galecki from Big Bang's in it. And a guy who the only thing I ever remember him from was he was in Angel. Can't tell you his name because I can't find it. So, in a future, sounds like a possible future, you stop aging at 25. Cool. So everybody over the age of 25 still looks 25. Not explained at all. That's just that. So yeah, it's all about, buying time, selling time. The rich get richer. They increase the cost of living so that poor people just basically end up dying, and rich people, the rich get richer, isn't it? That's the way it goes. It was fine. It was a perfectly fine watch. Like I say, you really do have to buy into the premise of the movie, which was fine, apart from this thing. So there's this thing that's like, it was said to be fighting, a bit like arm wrestling, but you're doing it with time. And the premise being is that depending which way your hand is, depends whether the person's taking your time or you're taking theirs. And he explains it at a certain point, and he's like, once the time gets down to a certain point, they're just watching your clock, and then you take their time, which involves rolling your hand over. This was the point in time I completely lost what was going on, because I was like, well, surely the other person just turns it back, waits a few seconds, and then you die and they win. Surely it's a strength thing, like a tug of war. But no, not. Again, another element that's not explained, and he absolutely manages to do it to this guy. Honestly, it was. Yeah, it was a very strange thing. If you could ignore those elements, like the story being like, okay, I guess, sort of situation, when they tell you what it's about, it's like, okay, and the whole the fighting thing, if you can overlook those, you're going to end up with a reasonably entertaining movie. Unfortunately, that is a big but. So, I watched a film the other day that I was a bit like, I'm just putting it on. I'm not expecting a lot from it. I'd seen a trailer a while ago. I was like, yeah, I'm happy to watch this film. I wasn't expecting huge things from it, but I certainly was happy to give it a go. The film in question is Widows. I thought it was going to turn out to be something like, was it Ocean's 8, where they did Ocean's. What did it start with? Wait a minute. Ocean's 9. Did it start with 9? Whatever the Ocean's films were. And then they did it with women. I wasn't sure if it was maybe a little bit like that. Not so. The film starts with like some big actors. So here we go. I'll tell you some of the people. Liam Neeson, John Bernthal, and another couple of guys I didn't really recognise. I'll tell you a little bit about this one. because I don't think it's a bit too much of a spoiler. They do a job, the job goes wrong, they all die. Now bear that in mind when you think about a couple of those names, because there's some pretty big actors, especially at this point in time. Then you've got Viola Davis, who, as far as I'm concerned, will always be Amanda Waller from Suicide Squad. Has she done another one as that character? I don't know. And Michelle Rodriguez, and then there was Elizabeth Debicki. Can't say I know her, but she did strike me. Ah, yeah, she was in Tenet, of course. So all of these guys, the quote unquote husbands, all pull this job and they all die, leaving all the wives, women, whatever, in predicaments. That every one of them's in a situation. Basically, they all owe money, or they're all in bad living condition, not condition, but situations. And then the Viola Davis, his character, finds a way to do a job which will get them the money they need. Oh, Colin Farrell's in it. And Robert Duvall. Great cast. Amazing cast. So she finds a way to do a job, gets all the women, or the widows, hence the name, in on the job. And that's that. That is the premise of the film. It was really good. I really enjoyed this film a lot. That thing, a lot more than I thought I would. But no, it was. I really enjoyed it. I don't know whether it was like the point in time that I was watching it, whether it was the cast. Maybe I thought it was a strong cast. I don't know. I don't know what it was about this film, but this film really worked for me. I really enjoyed watching it. It was an enjoyable time, and even before it had finished, I was like, this film's great. I got to the end of that film, and I was like, yeah, that is a really good film. Really enjoyable watch. I think that was like part of it. I enjoyed watching it, which in some ways might sound odd. But yeah, firm recommendation on that one. And finally, movie-wise, I wanted to get ahead of the game. I wanted to watch a brand new film. A film I'd seen a trailer for, and I was waiting for it to come out. A Netflix original, which is why I was cursing Netflix earlier. The film is Outside the Wire, starring Anthony Mackie. Now then, does anybody remember when I reviewed Altered Carbon Season 2? And I said he was not the right person to cast in that role. Now, I'm not going to say that about this. What I am going to draw our attention back to is, I was basically saying that Anthony Mackie, he can be good in stuff. And he was okay in this film. But the problem being is, I don't think the film made a huge amount of sense. They kept changing what was going on. And I know that that's like a thing, you can change stuff. But I again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like Anthony Mackie's a super soldier. He, bioengineered and all this, and then they just changed it. Like, oh no, that's not the case. Oh, he's something else. All right, okay. And then they're like, oh, but he can do this, but he can't do that. Now he can. I just went like that all the way through it, and the further it got, the more batshit crazy it was. It was very much like they decided that you didn't need to understand what was going on because there was going to be some explosions and some shooty bang bang. By the end, by the last bit of the film, I was like, what is going on? What is going on in this film? I think it was probably more me than the film. I think it was very much I've obviously missed something, or I've obviously not, almost like I've obviously not been paying enough attention to know what's going on in this film. To know what's going on in this film. It's like, I feel like I've missed the thing that tells me what's going on. Not necessarily that the film was just mental. Two things here. Number one, Netflix have said that they're going to release a film a week this year. What I say to that is, that's 52 films. How many of those 52 films will be good? There's something seriously wrong in the Netflix film department. I've seen quite a few of their original movies. The only one that stands out as being very good was Polar. Pretty much every single one of the films that I've seen outside of that. Oh no, there was. Why do I want to say it was Extraction? So the Chris Hemsworth one, that was very good. But yeah. The second thing is, if you want to die, what you should do is do a little drinking game. Put outside the wire on, and then take a shot every time Anthony Mackie hits the other guy's like, come on rookie, and hits him. Because if you do that, you will die from alcohol poisoning. Honestly, not entirely sure what the freaking hell was going on in that film. Whether it was supposed to be like a trait of his character or what, but every 3 seconds he was hitting him, being like, come on man, oh come on rookie, oh come on guy. I'm like, do you need to hit it? Is that a thing? It was super noticeable. It was really, really weird. So yeah, I will hold my hands up on this one. I feel that there's a large chance that this was me and not the film. And if somebody wants to watch it and come back to me and tell me that it was me, and in actual fact it made perfect sense, I am happy to listen and be corrected on this one. But yeah. Okay. Talk a little bit about games and then we'll wrap up. I've been playing a lot of VR. Unfortunately, I am playing the same game I've been playing for weeks, I just can't get away from Half-Life Alyx. So I'm not going to tell you about my third playthrough of Half-Life Alyx. So there's no VR this week. I'm looking to rectify that. I'm going to finish it this time and then I'm going to move on. And work on the principle that I can come back again later if I so desire. There we go. I am, however, going to talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. I finished it. It was a very good game. Right, that's positive stuff out of the way. Let's get to the catalogue of negatives. Absolutely not a full game. This game is jam-packed full of developer tricks. So they knew full well that this wasn't a full game. I believe the series of events went like this. We're releasing a Spider-Man game. Oh, cool, a Spider-Man game. Well, it's DLC. I mean, you made a big deal about it being a full game. Oh, right, okay, yeah, we'll make a full game. Well, we haven't got a full game. What do you want us to do? Just pad it out. Make them spend like 6 hours collecting stuff. People love that shit. That is Miles Morales. As far as like actual gameplay, there is very little outside of collecting stuff, fighting enemies in the place that you fought them in the other Spider-Man game, but they're different enemies, so that makes it okay. And a game mechanic that I don't want to say forces you to play New Game Plus, but let's face it, if you actually want to unlock everything, yeah, you're playing New Game Plus. Now, I am a man who loves New Game Plus. However, when you tell me I have to play it, apparently I don't love it anymore. Also, when you're like, oh, you got to play New Game Plus to unlock this. Alright, cool, I'll do that then. Oh, yeah, but you got to probably play the full game again to unlock all of it. Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. I keep going back to loads of fun, super fun, lots and lots of fun. But it's a reskin of the other game. It's, they put some snow out there and they gave Spider-Man power, different powers. Some would say better powers. And that's it. It's basically the same game again, with a shorter story, new powers, reskin it so that it's snow, and that's it. Unfortunately for someone like me who played the other one recently, it's a bit like, we've seen all this before. I read a thing today saying that they're making a big deal about Spider-Man 2, which kind of feel highlights the fact that Spider-Man Miles Morales was realistically just an add-on as such, but then they sold it as a full game at, I'm pretty sure it was 60 quid when it came out. So it's just a bit of a shame. It's a bit of an insult in certain ways. And I just feel, for everything that was good about it, there was a lot of, like I say, developer tricks. And if you like collecting things, this is the game for you. So there, a bit. I know that feels very mixed and it feels very negative. I keep having to reiterate to anybody I speak to about this game, it's a lot of fun, and you fly through it because you enjoy playing it. It's a lot of fun. And let's not forget the motto of the podcast being, where did the fun go in games? Which brings me nicely on to I have been playing Immortals Phoenix Rising. Sam said to me, before I started playing this game, he'd been playing it, and he was like, it's a game that's been made where it takes loads of aspects of lots and lots of other games and brings them all together into one game. Unfortunately, all the other games did all of those aspects better. And he is absolutely right. The biggest issue I have with it is that the main influence, I would say, on this game is Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I can also say the one game out there that I would never want to spend my time playing is Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's quite simple. It is not the game for me. And this game is very, very heavily influenced by that game. It's basically if Ubisoft made Zelda. But if Ubisoft made Zelda, I wouldn't play it. Zelda's just not for me, going all the way back to, the first Zelda, or Ocarina of Time, or any of those. I'm aware of them, but I'm not going to give you money for them, and I'm not going to play them. Honestly, I bought this game on a bit of a... It was cheap, which is something that you don't find these days. Cheap, brand new. I think it was like 30 quid new. It had a 7 out of 10 score. I am a man that loves 7 out of 10 scores. Everything was right. There was things about how the puzzles were too easy. I was like, hello. That the fighting and the combat was really good. I'm like, yes. Open world exploration. For me, on paper, this game ticks a lot of boxes. Unfortunately, when you get into it, it just, a lot of ways it wants to be Zelda, it wants to be God of War, it wants to be Assassin's Creed. It just doesn't do any of those things as well as any of those games. And the thing that I feel has influenced that game the most is the thing that I wouldn't spend my time playing. Now, here's the thing. Started it and I was like, I don't like this game. And I played it a bit more and I was like, I really don't like this game. And I played it a bit more and I was like, I don't like this game, but I'm just going to do this bit and then I'll turn it off. Or I'll just do this and then I'll turn it off. Or I'll just go over there and then I'll turn it off. Ah, crap. So it turned into that to start with. Then I got quite into it and I'm like, yeah, I'm digging this game, man. I'm digging this game. Puzzles, puzzles are fine. Collecting things, doing challenges, all of this. I'm like, I am into this game. I spent a lot of time with it. I was playing it a lot. Basically, I then went into a new area. I basically finished up the area I was in. I was like, I'll go to a new area and I'll check that out. Oh man, you go into dungeons and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Oh, this is what we want you to do. I'm good, thanks. I honestly, last night I wanted to throw it out the window. I think I already sense that I'm probably going to switch games fairly soon, possibly today. What time is it? Oh jeez. Yeah, possibly today. But I don't know. I think my issue at this point is that if I swap games, I think I know that I'll probably not go back to this game. And if that's the case, maybe I should just trade it in now and be done with it. I know that, like I say, Sam was playing it, and I know he also got to a point where he just stopped playing it. I believe for different reasons, but ultimately the outcome is the same. As with all of these things, I'll do my best to keep you posted on the development with that. Or we'll be talking about a different game this time next week. Oh, that is something. Day after tomorrow, Hitman 3 comes out. And it's the first game in a while where I've been like, do you know what? I might get that. Like day of release sort of thing. I was very disappointed with the way that they'd done the Hitman game in this batch of this franchise. But I was really, really impressed with the way that they'd done the second one. So I'm kind of looking forward to the third one. So we'll see. Right, that is the podcast for this week. My apologies for the scatterbrained nature of this podcast. That's if you made it this far. As always, thank you for sticking with me. Sometimes it's easier than others, but we're in this together ultimately. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you next time. So there we go. What do you think's that? Another one done. Another week gone. I mean, where does the time go? No, seriously, I'm asking, where does the time go? YouTube watchers, if you're a YouTube subscriber, you are an awesome person. Just saying. If you're an audio subscriber on SoundCloud or iTunes, you are also an awesome person. So there we go. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.